Hey, what's up guys, Totallydubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review for the Steelseries Siberia V3. So after receiving the V2 previously and having reviewed the 9H, H Wireless and the Siberia Elite, I was very much intrigued to see how the V3 would compare to the old line and the other products in the older generation of Steelseries products. So what I'm going to do is talk about the product zoomed in, because you can see the product in its flesh a little bit better. So looking at the product a little bit more closer, you'll be able to see what you get in the box. It's quite simple. You got the headphones themselves, and you got this pretty long extension cable, which is great for plugging at the back of your PC. Speaking about that, as you can see, you've got no USB input or USB sound card. This is a little bit of a shame, because now you're relying on your sound card or your onboard sound, which in my case was disappointing, because obviously I've got an Asus Sabertooth Z77 and the onboard sound is atrocious, to be quite honest, and even a little USB sound card, which cost about £1 in terms of recording quality, is much better than my Asus Sabertooth. And in terms of the line out, well, I just don't want to talk about that. It's absolutely horrible on the Sabertooth. So it's a little bit of a shame in this respect, because people are going to be limited in terms of sound quality with what they've got, whereas previously with the V2 you had that USB sound card, which allowed you to use and fine-tune your Steelseries headset with the software, or using the actual sound card capabilities. And that, yes, means that you don't have any sort of software that's bundled with it, which can be seen as a good thing, but also a bad thing. And for me, it's more of a bad thing rather than anything else. But anyway, that is the case with the V3. And as you can see, it is terminated with two gold-plated jacks with 3.5mm, and you've got the female jack over here, which connects into the male jack over there on the headset. So looking at the headset a little bit closer, you can see that the wire comes out on the left side. No, it's not removable. You can't get it out. And the microphone is quite good. It's just like the old line. It's got a retractable microphone. Big bonus over here, because I really love this design, and I think SteelSeries should adopt it throughout, which they have done so far. It's a really nice design by SteelSeries in that respect, so keep that up, SteelSeries. But anyway, talking about the headset themselves, let's talk about the build quality first. The build quality is pretty simple. It's very much like the V2. It's made out of a plastic construction. The headband assembly has got this nice kind of how to call it, a little suspended design, which is really nice. I really like it in terms of comfort, which I'll touch upon in just a second. The headsets are very much stretchy due to its plastic design, and this design itself really does bend to any sort of position you want. And I can't stop thinking of sexual innuendos right now, but anyway, it can stretch out to any sort of a position you want, and it's really great for all shapes of heads. Wow, this is crazy. Anyway, continuing with the build quality, you can see you've got a left and right indicator on the side. It might be not too apparent in the light that I've got over here, but yeah, it should be pretty easy to know what is left and right, simply because of where the cable is terminated and where the mic is, which is on the left hand side, so it should be pretty simple. On top of that, if it wasn't obvious enough, then you've got the SteelSeries logo over here, which indicates which direction you should use it in. So overall, the build quality is decent, but it's a shame there's no removable cable, and on top of that, you'll be able to see there is no volume control. Yes, there is a mute button, which is over here on the headset itself, which I quite like actually, but there is no volume control. And you might be thinking, why would I need volume control? I'm on PC Master Race. Yes, you are, that's great, but this is also designed for console gamers in mind. So for example, PS4 gamers that can use this headset are not going to be able to control their headset volume unless they do it via their PS4 or their controller. So this is a little bit of a shame, because if they had included the little switch like they did on the V2, then it would have been it wouldn't have allowed you to adjust the volume. So it's something really simple and something basic, but unfortunately SteelSeries have decided not to include it in the V3. I don't know what the reasoning was with that, neither do I know what the reasoning was for the USB sound card, but anyway, that's their decision, and this is how it's going to reflect in the review. So build quality is decent. It's not too revolutionary, it's nothing too special there, but it's nice using the same old vintage Siberia design. Now, I just touched upon comfort with the headband. Yes, it is comfortable to wear, due to a headband assembly is very much very accommodating for all types of movements and all types of shapes of heads. But the biggest thing for me was the pads on the V2s. They were just not comfortable with glasses. I'm happy to report that with this memory foam pads over here, they're much softer. And therefore, you have no problem in terms of your ears actually being on the driver itself. I had no problem with that over long periods of time of usage. There was no problems at all. Yes, I repeated myself quite a few times there, sorry about that. But anyway, point is, they've improved the pads and it has reflected on the comfort, and now they're much more comfortable to wear. That said, memory foam, I'm not sure SteelSeries have quite got what memory foam is, because this is not memory foam to me. Memory foam to me is when you do that and it really sticks in its position. Unfortunately, is not the case. I'm used to Comply foam tips and pads, and I know how memory foam reacts, but unfortunately this doesn't feel like memory foam. So maybe it's a very weak form of it, but anyway, it's not what I know in terms of memory foam. But anyway, the comfort is much better, and it's increased in terms of ratings in that respect in comparison to the V2. So top marks to SteelSeries for actually listening to their audience and actually getting better pads. Now, no headset would be complete without actually talking about the sound quality itself, and yes, I will get onto the recording quality independently on the PC in just a second. But yeah, the sound quality, how does it sound? Well, just to give you a comparison, or just a little quick brief overview of the V2. The V2 was very much mid-centric, the highs were a little bit rolled off, the bass was pretty much non-existent, the sound stage was amazing, it sounded like an open back headphone. So, the V3, how does that sound? Well, the mids are almost non-existent, the highs are still rolled off, but the lows are extremely prominent, and the soundstage is very, very good, just like it was on the V2. So what do we take from the V3? What has the V3 taken from the V2? Well, it's quite simple. It's taken the high-end frequencies, copied the high-end frequencies. They very much roll off after a certain while, just like the V2s do. And in terms of soundstage, it's very much the exact same soundstage. Very wide, very open, very nice and airy sounding. Great for listening footsteps coming left and right in games. And great for actual sound and the instruments coming from different directions. Absolutely excellent in that respect. But the mids, what I loved about the V2s are not present on the V3s. The V3s sound a bit muddier. They sound veiled, they sound V-shaped. They just don't sound as clear and crisp and just, how should I say it, elegant and great to hear like they did in the V2s. Instead, you're presented with a quite prominent mid bass. The sub bass is still pretty much non-existent. It is there, but it's still not very prominent. But the mid bass slam is very much present on the V3s. I'm not trying to make it exaggerate or something like that, but essentially the mid range has really taken a huge hit, whilst the bass has been boosted up greatly. Essentially, the ideal SteelSeries headset would be in the Siberia V range would be a midpoint between the V2 and the V3, not having too little bass like on the imagine there's the bass and this is the mids, not having too little bass like on the V2s and too much mids on the V2s, and not having too much bass and too little mids on the V3s, but having that midpoint. And unfortunately this is not the midpoint. If you're going to listen to classical music, for example, or if you want to listen out to people shouting in games, by that I mean in-game voice, then unfortunately you're not going to really hear it that much, but instead you're going to hear those explosions really bang and boom all around you, in comparison to the V2s, which pretty much muffled those explosions. So it depends on how you see it. I guess if you're a gamer and you're just looking at explosions and shooting guns, which uses probably much near the high end, the high frequencies, then this headphone will probably be better suited to you than the V2s. In terms of overall headphone quality or headset quality, I would actually prefer the V2 in terms of sound quality over the V3s, because these just sound so generic and so, I don't want to say Beats by Dre, but it kind of reminds me of that V-shaped signature, and I don't really like that, despite listening to a lot of R&B dance music, which is, you know, very much a V-shaped signature suits it. But, you know, I don't really like what SteelSeries have done with that, with the sound quality. Unfortunately, it's a thumbs down from me from the sound quality. It's still great in terms of sound, but when I compare it to the V2, I much prefer the V2, and it just brings me disappointment to think that the sound quality's changed quite a lot since then. So anyway, that is my sound quality thoughts. Of course, soundstage hasn't changed, so, you know, great in that respect. But yeah, unfortunately, that is the case. Now, in enough of me rambling on, I'm going to connect this up to the extender that you just saw just previously, which is over here. And I'm going to connect it up to the cheap little USB sound card that I was talking about, which is over here. In case you're wondering, this can be bought for about £1 or so, probably a little bit cheaper than that. But essentially, I got this because of my Mod Mic 4.0, which I use with my Denon ADHD 2000s. And the recording quality is great. It's not amazing, but it's great, and I really do like it, and therefore I can very much trust this little device to actually do a great job in terms of giving me an accurate representation of the recording quality of the V3s. And indeed it does, and I'm going to let you hear that in just a second. So I'm going to resume this video with showing my beautiful face and and you listening to the recording quality. So now we're on the V3, and whatever you can hear is coming straight from the V3, nothing else. And I'm going to do some random tests you're going to see in just a second. But yeah, the sound quality is quite good in my opinion. I think the recording is very lifelike, and it really does bring out the voice. And on top of that, I'm going to show you how it sounds with certain background noises. So first of all, I'm going to type on my mechanical keyboard so you guys can hear how it sounds like. I'm just going to type out some random things which don't make any sense whatsoever. But you can hear me typing at the same time as talking, and you can hear the keyboard in the background. If I go quiet, you can hear it still there. So do bear that in mind. It hasn't got any sound cancellation features or anything like that. You can hear that, which is a little bit unfortunate because, you know, with the SteelSeries engine it does help it a little bit, but anyway, this is not the case. We're not using any sort of software. It's just pure Windows Windows recording functionalities. So you can use cancellation softwares, but anyway, I've just chose to review it raw, so to speak. But anyway, I'm going to talk also over some music which I'm going to play in the background, so you'll be able to hear some R. Kelly Fiesta, which is a great song. Anyway, so you can hear me talking whilst the song is going on, and you can hear the song in the background. If I go quiet, you tell him, Jay-Z. Anyway, you can hear the music as well, so do bear that in mind. If you're going to be gaming quite loudly, your friends will probably be able to hear you over Skype or over VoIP, so do bear that in mind. But anyway, in terms of the overall sound quality, the recording sound quality, I think it's quite good. I'm quite impressed. It's a shame that it's not a little bit more isolated in terms of the sound, but overall it is decent, and I'm very much happy with the recording quality. I don't know, you guys can be the judge anyway about that, because you can hear it coming straight from there. But anyway guys, this has been a review for the Siberia V3. I think it is a decent headset, but in comparison to the V2, I would probably opt for the V2, or even just invest a bit more money and, you know, get, say, either a H wireless or a 9H. I think I would prefer those in comparison to the V3. Despite having drastically different sound signatures, I think that the V3 doesn't really bring out what I want from like an open back sounding headset, in terms of being open and in terms of really bringing out the mids. I feel that it's really focused on the bass, and I think that was a wrong thing to do by SteelSeries. And on top of that, the few things, you know, like the lack of a USB sound card and no volume adjustment over here, don't do it that much justice, unfortunately. Of course, the comfort is increased, that's great, but other than that, you know, hard to recommend in comparison to the older range. I prefer the older range, let's put it that way. So new is not always better in my book. Anyway guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and definitely favorite and share, it always helps. And if you want to see more of these videos, definitely subscribe, you always know that. But anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, great. If you haven't, then
What should I do? Let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, totally dubbed out. Bye bye.